Oh, well, well. Oh, very interesting. Interesting. Okay. Ooh. Ooh, before I forget. Oh, well, well, well. Oh, this stuff's supposed to be in alphabetical order. I kind of forget sometimes. I guess it doesn't really matter, but whatever, I guess. Whoa. I don't know. Okay. Well. That sounds fine, probably. Okay. Okay. Yes, I did most of this, like I said, off stream, but whatever. See, Breed was a master. He had the ability to create 9 to 10 small life forms per day that would grow and become more dangerous as they consume human flesh. As they consumed. As they consumed human flesh. As they consumed more and more. As they consumed more and more human flesh. Said life forms emerged from Breed's orifices and went through 3 stages of growth. Narratively, they were not explicitly labeled, but 3 stages of growth can be extrapolated. So for the sake of simplicity, I will just label them stage 1, 2, and 3. How creative of me. Now, before I begin elaborating on said extrapolated, is that really the word I want? Oh gosh, I don't know where my phone is. Oh gosh, I should probably go grab that. Where did I put that? There it is. I don't know how that got over there, but whatever. Let's get back in my chair. Do I want to use extrapolate? Probably not. Extrapolate. Extrapolate. Maybe not my preferred one to use. No. Said life forms emerged from Breed's orifices and went through 3 stages of growth. Narratively, they were not explicitly labeled, but 3 stages of growth can be broadly identified. There we go. Can be broadly identified. That's nice. Spell that. Can be broadly identified. So, for the sake of simplicity, I will just label them stage 1, 2, and 3. How creative of me. Now, before I begin elaborating on said stages, I will preface that we know the most about stage 1 and essentially not much of anything for 2 and 3. So, with that information in mind, stage 1. When the life forms emerge from when the life forms first emerge from Breed? When the life forms emerge from Breed. When the life forms first emerge from Breed. When the life forms emerge from Breed, they are the size of a lemon. And in terms of appearance, they've been described as trilobite. I don't know. When the life forms emerge from Breed, they are the size of a lemon. And in terms of appearance, they've been described. That doesn't sound quite right. When life forms emerge from Breed, they are the size of a lemon. And are, there we go. The first emergent breed, they are the size of a lemon and are described as trilobite and millipede like. I'll elaborate more on that when I'll elaborate more on what they look like a bit. There we go. I'll elaborate more on their appearance a little later, but I want to describe their growth process first. But I want to describe their growth. What I want to describe. I'll elaborate more on their appearance a little later, but I want to describe their growth. But that doesn't sound right. I'll elaborate more on their appearance a little later, but a little later, but is that right? I'll elaborate more on their appearance a little later, but I think describing their growth process should take priority. But I think describing their growth process should take priority. But I think I'll elaborate more on their appearance a little later, but I think describing their growth process. But I think describing their growth would I'll elaborate more on the appearance. Oh, I know what to do, but I want to describe their initial growth first. So to start, but I want to describe their initial growth process. Maybe that growth process. I'll elaborate more on their appearance a little later, but I want to. Oh God. I'll elaborate more on their appearance a little later, but I want to describe their initial. More on their appearance a little later, but before that, but it's probably. Weird. I'll elaborate more on their appearance a little. Such. I'll elaborate more on their appearance a little later, but it's perhaps more important that you know about their initial growth cycle first. As such, to start, once there we go. But it's perhaps more important that you know about their initial growth cycle first. As such, to start, after emerging, they will try to find a target, living or not. But if no target is to be found, they will try to find a feeding target. A feeding target, living or not. If no target. But if no target. But if living or not. But if no target is found, they will hide somewhere until a suitable target is found. They will hide. They will hide and lurk somewhere until a suitable target is found. Note that they are opportunistic. Note that they are opportunistic creatures, so they will go for a corpse before trying to attack a human. Second, once the target is found, they will try to burrow into an orifice or injury and hide for around 1 to 2 hours. While in hiding, they will emit pheromones to target other life forms. Additionally, if they are within a living target, they will paralyze. Additionally, if they are within a living target, they will paralyze them. Third, once they get comfortable, I suppose, they will devour their target from the inside out. Fourth, while they are digesting their food, they'll molt 1 or 2 times. Finally, after they are done doing the latter, they will look for another target. Now, note, this process will generally repeat for around 1 to 2 weeks, depending on what food sources they can find. And at the end of said process, the life forms, and at the end of said what could be ostensibly reach what could be ostensibly considered stage 2. Though, before we move on to that stage, let me further elaborate on their physical. No, before we move on to that stage, let me go back and further elaborate on their physical structure. Based on various accounts, Breed's life forms had spines and dozens of needle-sharp gripping legs, with said legs, and presumably spikes too, being able to extend and retract at will. Moving down the main body, they had narrow spike-tipped tails that were twice as long as their main body. I'll mention that the tails could have been slick to the touch, but that may have been due to leftover viscera. The latter is likely the case since its body has been described as like a shell of scales. The latter is likely the case. Since their bodies have. Oh, that's nice all there. What the fuck? Oh no, no swearing. Oh no. Anyway, that could have been slick to the touch. Moving down the main body, they had narrow spike-tipped tails that were twice as long as their main body. I will mention that the tail could have been slick to the touch, but that may have been due to leftover viscera. The latter is likely the case, since their bodies have been described as resembling since their bodies have been described as something akin to a shell, or I guess. The latter is likely the case. The latter is likely the case, since their bodies have been described as something akin to a shell of scales, or I guess shells that were like, or I guess shells. The latter is likely the case, since their bodies have been described as something akin to a shell of scales, or I guess. Since their bodies have been described as something akin to a shell of scales, or I guess shells that were like scales, with said scale shells feeling like, quote, wet sandpaper on cold, naked skin. Finally, going back up the body, it's noted that the life forms had a narrow head, akin to a spear or wedge. Note that all of this is the most. Can we? Note that all of this was the most descriptions. Note that all of this was the most description we get. Note that all of this was the most description we get on what was the most description we got on what breeds life forms looked like. So besides maybe some relatively minor changes, it can be assumed that throughout all stages, it can be assumed that throughout all because their appearance stayed mostly the same. Speaking of, all things that are likely retained through all stages is the other things that are likely retained through all stages was the Speaking of, other things that are likely retained through all stages probably mostly the same. Additionally, other things that likely carried over to the other stages. Additionally, other things that likely carried over to the other stages probably included the hissing sound they made while moving and their resistance to conventional ammunition and physical blows. I'll mention that with effort. I'll mention that with effort, not. I'll mention. I'll meant. No. Though I'll mention that with effort, stabbing weapons did seem to be usable, but likely. But likely less so. But likely less so. But likely less so in later stages. Plus, more so. Though I'll mention that with effort, stabbing weapons did seem to be usable, but likely less so in later stages. More so. Also, as an aside, I'll also add that I do not know what is considered. I'll also add that I don't know. I'll also add that I don't know. I'll also add that I don't know what is considered conventional ammo in this context. Conventional ammo in this context. But if the definition I looked up is any indication, these life forms are more durable than I thought, and the fact that Knives managed to be usable is certainly something. Oh my goodness. But if the definition I looked up is any indication, these life forms are more durable than I thought. And the fact that knives managed to be usable is certainly something. Right? Oh man, I gotta check that. I'm gonna check that up. Okay, that's what it specifically said. And as to consume human flesh. Okay, there we go. That's a good change, I guess. Though I'll mention that whatever time I was gonna check up on that because I'm not certain on that. Knives. Knife? Actually, wait a minute. Where is it? Okay, cool. Even though there's not many examples of that, just some offhand remarks. Okay, blah 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 did seem to be usable. Okay, is that the only example of that though? I'm always very conflicted about these things because all these references are like one or two things, which is something, I guess. That's that. Tails, maybe? Probably tails. Something to do with tails. So, distinctly remember cutting a tail off, but that might be just bad memory. Blah blah blah. There was bugs. Okay, their carapaces aren't that bad, I guess. What am I looking for? Let's see. Spines, blah blah blah. Tail. Blah blah blah. What's this hissing sound? Feather flip, blah blah blah, blah blah, gore. Tails, stingers. Right, did I put that stingers? Oh gosh, my memory is already bad on my own script. Blah 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 blah, blah blah blah, here it is. Not that, this one. Narrow spike tipped tails. Yeah, okay, cool. That's good. So let me look for this reference. Nope. No, none of that. Unfortunately. Let's see. I don't know. I think that's correct about knives working. I mean, technically bugs work. Scares of bugs work too, but oh man, this is so conflicting when it says they're durable or resistant against conventional ammo, which is interesting because probably not the best framework was being swarmed by scares bugs and knives. No. Okay, whatever. I'll just leave that there. I can't be bothered. Well, I can be, but that's probably where I'll do. Though I'll mention for stabbing weapons did seem to be usable. But likely less so in later stages. Okay, blah blah blah. I'll also add that I don't know what was considered weapon ammo in this context, but the definition I looked at was an indication. These life forms are more durable than I thought, and the fact that knives manage to be usable is certainly something. Anyway, I will note that the main distinction between stage 1 and 2 is that in stage 2 breeds life forms reach the size of around a quote-unquote full-grown human, and from there seem to continue to eat and grow, going through 2 to 3 more major molts until they reach their final stage of growth. Said final stage is when final stage is when they experienced. Final stage is when they experience their final molt and develop quote-unquote natural weapons. While there was likely several types of co-nationals that could manifest, the one described to us was, well, pellet spit that kind of acts like a shotgun blast with fragments that dissolve into flesh melting acid. With a description like that, one could only imagine the potential other nationals there could have been. Right. Right. Before ending off breeds section. Before ending off breeds. Right. Before ending off breeds. Alright, before ending off breed section, before ending off section, there is one last interesting thing I want to talk about. That being why Skitter could not control or sense them with her power. I wonder if there's any apple cider recipes I could make. Okay, whatever. For ending off breed section, there is one last thing I want to talk about. That being why Skitter could not control sense. Skitter could not control or sense them with her power. The explanation itself is pretty straightforward, but it does give just a bit more insight on. Alright, so the explanation itself is pretty straightforward, but it does give just a bit more insight on the mechanics of how powers are, on how powers are formed. Right. That said, That said, the explanation itself is pretty straightforward, but it does give just a bit more insight on the mechanics of how powers are formed. That said, from what I could That said, Skidder could not control the life forms. Because by the time Skidder got their powers, they were no longer something to consider. That in itself means a few things, from what I could find. First, that's nice. Well, tangentially. What the heck? Tangentially. That in itself means a few things. From what I could find. First, they were not included in Skidder's Raw the Day of a Bug. Whether that was because she didn't know about them or knew tangentially that who knows. Second, yeah, so that means a few things from what I could tell. Yeah, I'll just shorten that. Yeah, I agree. That means a few things from what I could tell. First, they were not included in Skidder's Bug. More generally, they were not included in Skidder's Raw the Day of a Bug. Whether that was because she didn't know about them, whether that was because she didn't know of them, or knew eternity that breed knew Who knows? Second, and perhaps more importantly, first, more generally, they were not included. Second, and perhaps more. The plagiarism is pretty straightforward, but it does give just a bit more insight on the mechanics of how powers are formed. That said, Skeletor could not control the life forms. Skeletor could not control the life forms because by the time Skeletor got her powers, they were no longer something to consider. That means a few things. That means a few things from what I can find. First, more generally, they were not included in Skeletor's broad idea of a bug. Whether that was because she didn't know of them or knew tangentially, the breed dead, who knows. Second, and perhaps more importantly, sort of knew or thought, when her shard was forming her power, it accessed the wider shard. Second, and perhaps more importantly, regardless of what Skeletor herself knew or thought, when her shard formed her power, it accessed the wider shard network where the collective knowledge of all the other shards and their and from there And from there, and it is from there. And it is from there that it truly formed the basic parameters of sketches. And in the case of breed, it quote unquote saw the things humans broadly thought to be as bugs. And in the case and it's probably from there that it really formed the basic parameters of Sketch's power. It saw the things humans broadly thought to be that's not right. It saw the things humans broadly thought to be as bugs. Or thought to be as bugs. And in the case of breed, determined and in the case of breed, determined that saw the things humans broadly thought to be as bugs. In the case of Breed, determined that his life forms were truly which made the shard not bother to. Which made the shard not bother to include them in its range of control. Ortogon. Which made the shard not bother to include them. Which made the shard not bothered. Which made the shard not bother to include. Which made the shard not bother to include them in its range. I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but it is. Going on a bit of a tangent, but that shard network and how it seems to work puts a few things in perspective and brings up a few questions. I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but that shard network and how it seems to work puts a few things in perspective and brings up a few questions. Ow. I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but that shard network and how it seems to work puts a few things in perspective and brings up a few questions. In terms of perspective. it sort of helps contextualize how pre and post cognition. In their own way, they are pulling and conveying. Pulling and... and then more specific. Oh, I guess going a bit on a tangent, but that shard network and how it seems to work puts a few things in perspective and brings up a few questions. In terms of perspective, it sort of helps contextualize. It sort of helps contextualize how pre and post cognition powers worked. In their own way, they are pulling and conveying information from the same pool of knowledge. In a more specific case, they may it may also explain various thinker powers that seemed or not, such as or I guess even Harbinger. Oh gosh, did I spell Tattletale's name? How am I blanking on this? Yeah. It may also explain various stinger powers that seem to be more knowledge-based, such as Tattletales or even Harbingers. Though, I guess, an obstacle... Though I guess an obstacle to those ideas is how information is taken from. No, I guess an obstacle to those ideas is how information is taken from those that ostensibly don't have a shard attached to them. And anyway. Anyway. Anyway, in terms of questions. Those are questions. And to look back to King, him being immune to Grey Boy's power could be considered by some to be a bit of an out. That's what you think. And those are questions, and they're really. And that one. In terms of questions, and to relate back to King, he was immune to Grey Boy's power, and while I admit I'm unclear on the time. Anyway, in terms of questions, and to relate back to King, he was immune to Grey Boy's power, and while I admit I am unclear on the timeline, I wonder if king got his hearts before. I wonder. Oh, I gotta make food, so I guess I'm done. Ho ho! And I guess I'll finish this up myself.